Overnight, the Middle East war continued to drive the global agenda, with fresh political and military signals that the conflict is widening and becoming harder to contain. In the United States, the head of the National Counterterrorism Center, Joe Kent, resigned, urging President Trump to reverse course and arguing the war serves no benefit to Americans and that Tehran posed no imminent threat. That is a significant internal rupture at a senior security level, and it adds to uncertainty about Washington's next steps and the durability of domestic support on the battlefield and in leadership circles. Israel says it has killed Iran's security chief Ali Larijani in an air strike, alongside other senior figures, though Iranian confirmation has not been reported. ABC analysis notes Larijani's influence had already grown sharply after the reported killing of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei at the start of the war, making any leadership change in Tehran potentially destabilizing. Al Jazeera reports a man being rescued from rubble after an Israeli strike in Iran, while it also reports UN warnings that Israel is carrying out mass expulsions of Palestinians in the West Bank, with tens of thousands displaced over the past year. The conflict is also spilling across borders elsewhere. Afghanistan says about 400 people were killed in an attack on a Kabul drug rehabilitation hospital, with Pakistan denying responsibility. The BBC reports at least 100 killed in a Pakistani airstrike on the same facility, underscoring contested claims and the fog around casualty figures. Separately, ABC reports Israel is moving more troops into southern Lebanon, with experts warning a long occupation could push Lebanon toward deeper collapse. Economically, the war's energy shock is now producing policy responses. ABC reports Sri Lanka has moved to a 4-day work week to conserve fuel. That's a clear indicator of how quickly fuel supply and price pressures are forcing governments into emergency measures, and it's a reminder that the global economy is absorbing the conflict through higher transport and input costs. Turning to Australia, the domestic economic story is tightening. The Conversation reports the Reserve Bank narrowly voted to lift interest rates again, the second hike this year, adding roughly $100 a month to the average mortgage. The same analysis flags that the Middle East war, via fuel prices and inflation pressure, may determine whether there are further increases. On fuel, SBS reports the consumer watchdog is summoning major fuel suppliers to explain skyrocketing prices, after the government asked the ACC to monitor the market to ensure motorists are not being taken for mugs. For the Australian Public Service and Government Operations, SBS reports the government has reversed a decision on the SBS Western Sydney expansion, saying it will continue backing the broadcaster's work. In politics, attention is on South Australia ahead of the state election. The Guardian reports analysts are watching whether One Nation can convert polling momentum into seats, making this a test of whether the party is moving from protest support into mainstream parliamentary influence. On markets, the key watch today is how Australian shares price the combination of higher rates and higher fuel costs, with energy-sensitive sectors and consumer-facing stocks likely to be in focus. Locally and in communities, SBS reports Woolworths may close one of its most remote stores in Arnhem Land after the Rio Tinto bauxite mine closure, with locals fearing the town's viability. That's a concrete example of how economic transitions and corporate decisions can compound in remote Australia, especially when fuel and logistics costs are rising. Finally, in sport, the Matildas have reached the Asian Cup final after a 2-1 semi-final win over China, with ABC highlighting Sam Kerr's finishing and key contributions across the side.